When I declined to lend money to my husband's younger brother, his whole family orchestrated a so-called family vote to pressure me into giving in. They were smiling, those smug, saccharine smiles that hide knives behind their back. Majority rules, they said with a tone that made my skin crawl. My husband, Daniel, didn't object. He just sat there in silence, eyes hollow like he wasn't even present. Let me give you some context. I'm 42 and I've been married to Daniel for nearly a decade. We live in a quiet coastal town in Oregon, far from where I grew up. His family is large, close-knit, and incredibly traditional. Sunday potlucks, group vacations, constant check-ins, and an unspoken rule that family means unquestioned loyalty. I tried to fit in. I cooked, cleaned, attended every family event with a smile, even when I knew they'd whisper the moment I left the room. They were polite, sure, but it was the kind of politeness that felt like I was constantly being sized up and measured against some invisible standard. Then came the ask. Daniel's younger brother, Caleb, had once again gotten himself into financial trouble. Caleb was a walking disaster dressed in optimism, always pitching a new scheme, always one step away from his big break. His most recent endeavor, a failed eco-startup that burned through tens of thousands of dollars and ended with him defaulting on a loan that his parents had co-signed. So naturally, they turned to me. I work as a trauma nurse, long hours, decent pay, and years of careful saving. Daniel and I don't have kids, and we've been pretty smart with our finances. Caleb showed up at our front door with a sheepish grin and a story that reeked of practice-spiration. He needed $18,000 just for a few months. I said no. I was polite. I even softened it with excuses, house projects, savings tied up, concerns about the risk. Caleb nodded, told me he understood, and left. I actually felt guilty for a moment. 3 days later, I received an invitation to dinner at Daniel's parents' house. When I arrived, the entire family was there. Every sibling, every spouse, the parents. Except Caleb, who was running late. The smiles were too bright. Something was off. Then Daniel's father stood and said they'd been discussing Caleb's situation and decided it required a family solution. That's when they dropped it. We're holding a vote, his mother said cheerfully. Majority rules. Like this was a boardroom and not my actual life. I turned to Daniel, expecting him to shut it down. He didn't. He looked resigned, maybe scared, maybe ashamed. Then, one by one, they voted. Every hand raised in favor of me and Daniel lending Caleb the money. Every single. And then they turned to me, waiting for my obedience. I let the silence stretch for a beat too long. Then I smiled, calm and unreadable, and said, "All right then. Let's vote on something else." Confused glances darted around the table. I could feel the tension shift ever so slightly. Reaching slowly into my purse, I pulled out a manila envelope and laid it on the table. I slid it across to Daniel, who looked down at it like it was a foreign object. His father asked, cautiously, "What is this?" I leaned back slightly in my chair. That's a copy of the quitclaim deed to our house, the one Daniel and I live in, the one that's fully paid off. I paused for effect. Only my name is on the title. A sharp invisible line had just been drawn in the room. I could see it in their eyes. Then I pulled out a second document. "And this," I said, setting it beside the first, "is a notarized amendment to our prenuptial agreement. I had it drafted and signed last month." Daniel's eyebrows creased. "What?" "I left a copy on your nightstand, Daniel. You probably never looked at it. Since everyone here loves a good vote, I figured it was time I made sure my personal assets were legally separated, just in case." His mother's expression twisted like she'd swallowed something bitter. One of his sisters gasped. The others stared at me in stunned silence. And I just kept my voice level. "So if this is really a democracy, then let's put this on the table too. Do you want to vote on whether or not we stay married?" Daniel's mouth opened, but nothing came out. His face went pale. No one at the table said a word. The confidence, the smug superiority, all drained from the room like someone had pulled the plug. That's when Caleb finally arrived, late, as always. He strolled in like he was walking into brunch, wearing that same self-satisfied smirk he always had. "Sorry I'm late," he said, flopping into the only empty chair like nothing was wrong. He looked around, noticed the envelope, noticed the tension. What a miss. Nobody answered him. His mom cleared her throat. We were discussing options. I looked straight at Caleb. I told them no. He tilted his head, casually. Yeah, and we voted. I smiled again. Just a little, right? And I voted too, with legal documents. His grin faltered. You could almost see the moment it dawned on him. He hadn't been told. He had no idea I had made a move. He looked to Daniel, voice rising. Dude, what the hell? Daniel just sat there silent. And that was the moment Caleb snapped. He stood up and shouted, You're just going to let her do this? Let her embarrass us like this? Yes, that word hit me like a slap, as if I wasn't even a person anymore, just an outsider. Daniel still said nothing, not one word. And then his father slammed a fist on the table. This is not how family works, he shouted. You don't bring lawyers into family decisions. I leaned forward, gaze steady. You made it a business transaction when you voted like a boardroom, so I responded in kind. And just like that, everything started to crack. The silence that followed was thick, uncomfortable, almost suffocating. Caleb looked around the table, visibly trying to regain control. His usual charm was That's when Daniela, Daniel's younger sister, the quiet one who always stayed on the sidelines. I'm tired of pretending, she said, her voice shaking just enough to make everyone turn. I lent Caleb $10,000 last year. He told me he needed it for a limited times investment, promised he'd pay it back in 6 months. I never saw a cent. The air shifted instantly. Caleb's head snapped toward her. What are you talking about? She gave a sharp, hollow laugh. Don't act surprised. You ghosted me the second I sent the money. His mother's face went pale. For a second, it looked like she didn't know who to believe. But something was unraveling, something that couldn't be patched up with a family dinner or another empty excuse. Then Marcus, Daniel's youngest brother, spoke. Wait, I thought I was the only one. Everyone turned to him. I gave Caleb $5,000 on my credit card. He said he needed it for a business course. His voice dropped to a whisper. That was 2 years ago. A cousin chimed in next, then an uncle. One by one, they began to speak, hesitant at first, then with rising anger. All the little loans, all the vague promises, all the lies. Even their mother looked like the ground beneath her had shifted. Her eyes were wide with betrayal, lips parted as if searching for something to say, but no words came. Caleb backed away slightly from the table, shaking his head. This is crazy. You're all just trying to make me look. I leaned back, arms folded. You didn't need our help with that. He turned to Daniel, a note of desperation creeping into his voice. Say something, man. Daniel finally looked up. His eyes met mine, but all he asked was, when did you change the prenup? There it was. Not an apology, not a defense, just that. About 6 weeks ago, I said flatly. Right after Caleb's last opportunity blew up. Their mother began crying silently. Caleb looked like he might explode, pacing behind his chair now. Daniel's father sat back down, the anger gone, replaced by something heavier, defeat. Caleb stormed out. No one stopped him. No one called after him. I stood up, reaching for my purse. Daniel moved slightly, like he was going to follow me. I held up a hand. Don't. And then I left. But I had no idea the real betrayal hadn't even been revealed yet. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on my back in the guest bed at a cheap motel 2 towns over, staring at the cracked ceiling, like it might offer some kind of answer, but nothing came. No tears. Just this strange, hollow silence humming beneath my ribs. Around 2:00 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was a message from Danielle. Can we talk? I know things I didn't say earlier. You deserve to know. We met the next afternoon at a little cafe near the coast, neutral ground. She looked pale, eyes ringed with exhaustion, but when she sat across from me, her voice was steady. I don't know how to say this without making it worse, she said, but I've been waiting for someone to finally see through Caleb, and maybe Daniel too. And that last part hit me like ice down my spine. What do you mean? She took out her phone, her hands trembling. You remember that crypto scam Caleb tried last year, the one that tanked? I nodded slowly. Daniel was in on it. My stomach flipped. She turned her phone so I could see the screen. Emails, screenshots, bank transfers, payment chains. My husband wasn't just aware of Caleb's messes, he was part of them. He was sending money back and forth, shielding transactions under his name, even lying to the bank. I didn't want to believe it either, Danielle said quietly. He told me not to say anything. Said he'd make it right. Said you didn't need to worry. My voice came out hoarse. He used our savings. She looked at me, didn't answer. She didn't have to. I suddenly remembered something. 3 months ago, I'd seen a huge withdrawal from one of our joint accounts. When I asked Daniel about it, he told me it was for emergency roof repairs, and showed me an invoice. It had looked real. It wasn't. I pressed my hands against the sides of my head, trying to breathe. I felt like I was watching someone else's life, someone else's marriage, burn from the inside out. I'm sorry, Danielle whispered. You're not crazy. You were never crazy. I swallowed hard. Why are you telling me this now? She paused, then said, because I found out something else. I braced myself. Last month, Daniel and Caleb went to your parents. They pitched a new business, told them you were helping fund it, wanted them to invest too, before it launched. I blinked. My mom. She called me after you left that night, said she was worried. That's when I realized they're not just using you, they're selling you. The breath left my lungs. I stood up, moved, sat back down. Everything inside me screamed to act, but I couldn't even think straight. Danielle reached across the table. I've been documenting everything. Screenshots, texts, bank records. If you want out, I'll help, but you'll need proof. And just like that, something snapped into place. I looked at her, my voice cold and clear. Send me everything. And she did. A week passed. Each day, I uncovered more. Another transfer, another lie, another carefully hidden thread woven into the web that Daniel and Caleb had built together. By the end of the week, I had Danielle's folder, my own bank statements, credit history, even 2 credit cards Daniel had applied for under my name. He hadn't used them yet, but they were just sitting there waiting for the next emergency. Then came Sunday. Daniel's mother invited everyone for dinner again. Same house, same table, same charade of togetherness, and for once, I said yes. I had one goal, to end this in front of them all. The atmosphere was tight with fake smiles and forced laughter. Daniel sat beside me, acting like everything was normal. He kept checking his phone, offering half smiles when someone made eye contact. Caleb wasn't there. Late again. Of course. I waited until the food was served. Wine poured, hands relaxed. Then I stood. I think it's time, I said, for one more vote. Every fork paused midair. All eyes turned to me. I pulled a small stack of papers from my bag and laid them on the table, one by one. This, I said, tapping the first page, is proof of a joint account between Daniel and Caleb, opened 3 years ago. Over $60,000 moved through it, most of it from our savings, some from loans. Daniel's mother gasped. His father sat straighter. I continued. This is a forged invoice Daniel gave me 3 months ago for a roof repair that never happened. And this, I held up the last sheet, is an email sent to my parents using my name, promising them equity in Caleb's fake startup. Daniel's face drained of color. No one said a word. I thought Caleb was the only con, I said softly. But you, Daniel, you're just quieter about it. His mother shook her head. That can't be true. Danielle spoke from the far end. It is. I have the messages. Daniel asked me to cover for him. Daniel stood suddenly, voice sharp. What do you want from me? I was trying to fix things. Caleb was drowning. I cut him off. No, you weren't trying to fix anything. You were trying to lie better than him. He looked at me, wounded. He saved me once. All right, that's why I owed him. The room fell still. What do you mean? His father asked. Daniel's eyes darted to the door, nowhere to run. Years ago, he mumbled, I got into legal trouble at work, falsified reports. Could have gone to jail. Caleb took the fall, claimed it was him. I let him. His father stood slowly. You lied to all of us. To her. Daniel's shoulders sagged. I didn't know what else to do. She always had the money, the control. I just needed to fix it before she noticed. And there it was again. Control. That's how he saw me. Not as a partner, as a wallet. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I reached into my purse one last time and placed a folded paper in front of him. He opened it. His face collapsed. A divorce petition, already signed. No drama, just a vote, I said, and I vote to leave. No one followed me when I left that night. Not Daniel, not his mother, not a single one of them. I checked into a small lakeside inn, about 30 minutes away. That first night, I lay there, fully dressed on top of the blanket, staring at the dark ceiling. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel anger anymore. Just a silence so loud it pressed against my chest like a weight. 3 hours later, Danielle texted me. He left. No one said goodbye. The fallout came fast and brutal. Daniel tried calling the next morning, voicemails, messages, even an email. He was crying. He said he was lost, said he didn't understand how it had gotten so bad, said we could fix it. I didn't respond. 2 days later, I filed the divorce officially. The prenup amendment and documentation I'd prepared saved me more than just money. It saved me from a slow, bleeding heartbreak that could have dragged on for years. Danielle kept sending me things. More receipts, bank screenshots, messages from Caleb, from Daniel. She had everything archived, and she didn't stop there. Fueled by guilt, or maybe the same exhaustion I had felt for years, she decided to sue Caleb for the $10,000 he never paid back. He vanished, deleted his socials. Rumor has it he moved to New Jersey and works under a fake LLC now, some half-baked consulting gig. Same game, news. Daniel moved back in with his parents. The big Sunday dinner stopped. The family group chat went dead. No more potlucks, no more pretend smiles. I wish I could say I walked away clean, but I didn't. There were nights I couldn't breathe from the ache. Nights I sat in my new apartment's kitchen, holding a mug of tea gone cold, wondering if 8 years of my life had meant anything at all. I questioned myself, wondered if I'd missed the signs, wondered if I had been too trusting, too forgiving, too blind. But slowly the fog began to lift. I started sleeping through the night. I started laughing again, real laughter, the kind that rises from your stomach and surprises you. I started remembering who I was before they taught me to shrink. And I kept all the documents, every screenshot, every receipt, every quiet betrayal typed in black and white, not out of bitterness, but out of truth, because truth, I've learned, is armor. I don't know if Daniel ever really loved me. Maybe he did, or maybe I was always just a steady hand, a safe bet, a woman with savings and a soft voice. But I know what I love now. I love peace. I love mornings without dread. I love silence that doesn't suffocate. And if there's one thing this has taught me, it's when someone says majority rules, remember, you don't need a vote to leave a burning house. You just need the courage to walk out the door. And I did.